We'll get started. Good morning, and let's call our meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, August 13th. It is 9 o'clock. The invocation will be done by Reverend Ted Stackpole, the chaplain to Foster Care Community. Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Commissioner Bill Pickens. Please rise if you're able to do so and remove your caps.
Would you bow your hearts with me in prayer this morning? Heavenly Father, we come before you today with hearts full of gratitude for the many blessings you bestowed upon us. We thank you for this opportunity to gather and serve our community. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as decisions are made that affect the lives of those in our county. May integrity, fairness, and compassion be the guide for all that is said and done. And Lord, we also lift up our county's teachers, faculty, and students as they return to school. We pray for their protection, keep them safe and healthy throughout the school year. Grant the teachers and faculty the wisdom, patience, and strength they need to nurture and educate our young people. Fill them with your peace and encouragement, even in challenging times for the students. We ask that you open their minds and hearts to learn and grow. May they feel your love and support in their studies and friendships. And as we begin this meeting, we invite your presence to be with us. Help us to work together in unity, seeking the best for all those represented. And may everything that is done be said for your glory and the good of our community. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you, Reverend Stackpole. Appreciate it. And Commissioner Bill Pickens. Next on our agenda, Commissioners, is approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes with one change. For July 9th, I was absent due to an illness. So if that second paragraph will just get changed, then I move approval with the change.
Okay. We have a proper motion to... Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Turner. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. I'm going to take a point of privilege real quick before we go to our Port Authority and call upon Ms. Jenny Robbins to come up and bring up your guest and your other people that are with you. Dana, you want to come up? No? Okay. Told you I'd get you in and out quick, so I know.
No worries. Good morning, Commissioners. I am here today, Jenny Robbins, Chairman of the Board of the Chamber this year. We have our new president for the Chamber moving forward, Ms. Laura Pavlis, and I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you.
Good. Ms. Laura, welcome today.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me here today. Some familiar faces and some new faces. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I really look forward to working in this community and serving the residents and the businesses. There's so much opportunity here. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of what you guys all have going on and the momentum that you've created. So just look forward to serving you all. My last 9 years I spent serving Clay County. There's a lot of momentum on the south end of Clay County that I think will be a really nice congruent to what's going on in Putnam County. So a lot of unity for the Northeast Florida region as well. So thank you for having me here this morning. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and I look forward to working with you all.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, next on our agenda, we're going to recess our Board of County Commission meeting, and we're going to call to order our Port Authority. And Commissioners, we have an item of approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes of the Port Authority meeting July 9th, 2024.
Second.
We have a proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Is there any public comment on Port Authority? This is Port Authority items only at this point. And seeing no one rushing forward, we'll close that public comment period. General discussion amongst commissioners. Is there any discussion on port items? Commissioner Amzak, Commissioner Turner? No? Okay. Then we'll end our Port Authority meeting and reconvene our Board of County Commission meeting and go into presentations. Ms. Lori Parker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here to present the award for Employee of the Month for July 2024. And the Employee of the Month is Cindy Driggers. She's with Sanitation. Cindy started with us in early 2023, and she has been a very big asset to the sanitation department. Jay?
Well, we're thankful for this opportunity to be here with you today and to thank Miss Cindy for all of her hard work. You know, in the sanitation department, we seem to be always trying to optimize and do things a little bit better. And show up at that scale house. So we thank her for her willingness just to be a good employee. And she's very deserving of this award, and we're grateful for the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't want to say anything? No. Okay. Laura, get everybody in place. Somebody shorter, maybe? Good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
A little levity never hurt anyone. We do have some great employees, and we appreciate the opportunity to recognize them today. Now we can move right into our Planning and Development public hearing, 9 o'clock, and we're going to do our first one is a PUD 24-00003, King's Family LLC.
Good morning, everyone. For the record, Jennifer Gazelle, Planning and Development Services. The applicant is requesting a zoning map amendment from Residential 1 R1A and Commercial Neighborhood C1 to Planned Unit Development PUD. The applicant is King's Family LLC. The agent is Pendulum Properties LLC. Parcel is 80.90 acres located at 1160 County Road 309 in Crescent City. The applicant is seeking approval for the purpose of establishing an overnight recreation park consisting of up to 600 RV sites, no more than 2 caretaker residences, cabins, glamping sites, camp store, restaurant, bathing and bathing facilities, laundry facilities, RV and boat storage, events and meeting facilities, a park office, and outdoor recreation areas. The parcel is designated rural center and rural residential on the adopted future land use map. The parcel is currently vacant and has approximately 350 feet of paved road frontage on County Road 309 and 2,600 feet of paved road frontage on County Road 308. According to the Putnam County GIS reference map, there is approximately 18 acres of wetlands. The submitted site plan indicates the majority of those areas to be avoided. Should this PUD be approved, the applicant will then submit to the Development Review Committee to satisfy additional development requirements. The DRC will review plans to ensure the development is compliant with local, state, and federal development regulations. As it pertains to this property, the DRC will ensure the placement of RV lots is acceptable based on the development agreement, and the Florida Department of Health will review plans for potable water and sanitary sewer. Other agencies, including but not limited to Putnam County Public Works, Emergency Services, and St. Johns River Water Management District, will review plans to ensure the development will not adversely affect surrounding properties by complying with each agency's specific regulations associated with the new development. We show your aerial view, the future land use, zoning, FEMA flood zone, wetlands, the PUD agreement conceptual plan. Staff recommends approval of the request to amend the zoning map from Residential 1 R1A and Commercial Neighborhood C1 to Plan Unit Development PUD, with staff proposed development agreement as the request is consistent with the requirements for PUD zoning, consistent with the future land use designation, and consistent with other comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. At the scheduled public hearing on June 12, 2024, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning application. Questions?
Any questions? Mr. Turner, you have the floor.
Once this, if this goes through today, then it will go to DRC,
Yes, sir.
and then it would come back to a future board for approval of a development order?
No, sir.
Okay, so this is it,
Yes, sir.
except for what requirements DRC puts on them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I noticed on page 85 that it said that they had the caretaker residence that was allowed, actually two of them, I believe. It cannot be larger than 1,200 square feet.
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
That is the stipulation the applicant put in the development agreement themselves.
Okay. Just surprised that they would build something that small for a caretaker's residence. The other thing on this particular one is that it's my understanding that the NFPA minimums, which is National Fire Protection, is that correct, JR?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Says that the roadways that they're asking for, the minimums on the roadways, are not allowable. They have to be 20-foot for one-direction roads and 24-foot for two-direction roads by that fire code. So while I know that DRC would pick that up, I want it to be in a development agreement that they understand straight up front that that's the minimums that those roads can be by NFPA. I think those were the two issues that I had for right now. Oh, excuse me, one more. The site plan it calls for that they're going to do this in 5 phases, but the site plan doesn't lay out those phases or what part's going to be done first, or if the amenities are going to be in place for the whole place before phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 come in. So in other words, would they be allowed to come in and just put in their roads and sewer and water and start putting the phase 1 in without the other amenities, or have they got to have all the amenities such as bathrooms and showers and the other things that have to be there to be an RV park?
Mr. Chair, if I may answer that, or I'm sorry, excuse me, Commissioner Turner, if I may answer that. So in phases there.
State your name and.
Oh, yes, for the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. When it comes to a phase development, the phase or the infrastructure that is critical to the completion of those phases will be required. So in some cases, it may be all of the water and all of the wastewater, because typically we don't see several of those, especially on a park. For the roads, they would put in those roads that are necessary to access those campsites, and then, of course, like the office, some recreational spaces, and then all of the power and supporting infrastructure for the actual RV lots themselves. They have kind of their own discretion if they want to put in all of the roads up front and then build on, add the new lots later on, or if they want to kind of compartmentalize the development. But those critical infrastructure, water, sewer, and wastewater, will have to be in place before all of the phases are complete.
I guess my concern is mostly the other amenities that are required for them to have RV parks, such as the bathrooms and the showers and those sort of amenities. Do they have to be put in before phase 1 can start, or can they be done later? One of my concerns is they start this project and it won't work, and we got a non-conforming RV park out there because the original amenities haven't ever been put into place.
Yes, sir. So our land development code specifically requires a centralized restroom within 300 feet of camp spaces. So they will be required to put in the restrooms and shower facilities that would service those nodes, but we would not expect them to put in a restroom on the southwest or southeast corner if all of their development for phase one is in the northwest corner.
I understand that, but they would have to put in what is required to service that phase that they're putting in at the moment.
That is correct.
I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Pickens, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Harvey. Jennifer, on page 53 of the development dimensions and intensity standards, it doesn't say anything about the front roadway setbacks, but it does on 71. It's highlighted in red, so they will be 25 feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the instead of a 70% density, it's a maximum of 7.5 sites per acre.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then I believe it had in there, so we're changing the time frame from 24 to 36 months to time of where he has to start doing something before the permit goes void.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and in development review, this is where the possibility for the need for turn lanes will be discussed and that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Because turn lanes need to be in this project because that's just a two-lane road, and so I highly recommend that. Also, is the quiet hours in here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, what's the time frame? I missed that.
While they're looking for that, I don't see any reason why that we can't put in this development order things that this commission is passionate about, such as that there will be turn lanes off there, and then the DRC can then go in and design the minimums on the turn lanes. But there's nothing that I know of that says we can't require them to put a minimum turn lanes to be designed by DRC.
I concur. Okay, we're not going to do that. Okay, it's hard to hear up here when people in the audience are talking. You'll have your chance to come up and speak.
And there's just, excuse me, Chairman Harvey, there's just one entrance will be off of 309. There's no access to this from 308, correct, Zachary?
Sorry, repeat that.
There's no access from 308 to the possibility of this project. There's no access to 308.
Just an emergency.
Just
entrance.
emergency.
Well, the conceptual plan currently shows access just for the infrastructure, the water and the wastewater, but we don't have any access for the public on 308.
Right, the general public, okay.
Would you like to come back to that question while you're researching that?
Yeah, it seems as though we don't have it
No, it's fine.
readily
I'm sorry.
available for us.
We'll come back to that question. I'll give you time. I'm going to go to Commissioner Paul Adams that.
I just wanted to make sure I was right, but across the street there's already a smaller RV park, is that correct?
Renegades is across the street.
Thank you.
I'm struggling to find that timeline that they put in there, so I want to defer to the
I didn't
applicant's
see it in
agent on
there.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I didn't see it in there, but I know we discussed it.
All right, so we'll go to, is the applicant here today?
The applicant's agent is, yes.
Okay. Would the applicant like to come up and speak? Good morning, Mr. Kennedy.
Patrick Kennedy, 673 3rd Avenue, Willaca, Florida. I'm here on behalf of the applicants. They did call. They were trying to be here, but they're running a little late in traffic, I guess, from where they're coming. The answer should be on, I'm looking at the actual development agreement. It'd be page 5 of the development agreement. Section 3.3.3 was added for location and hours of operation. And the event, meeting facilities and restaurant uses and structures shall be located away from the project boundaries towards the center of the project is generally represented. The concept plan attached as Exhibit 1 is understood and agreed that entertainment, special events on the property shall be limited to the event meeting facilities or the restaurant, and any amplified sound on the property shall be subject to Putnam County Sound Ordinance and limited to the following hours: Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., which mirrors Renegades across the street, although we have an application requirement in ours that's not in the Renegades PUD. And then it says refer to Putnam County Sound Ordinance for the actual decibel requirements.
Page 85.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, will you put that microphone to your mouth, please?
Yeah, it's kind of
I know, it's kind of a
Fighting me
weird
here.
microphone.
needs to be tightened up down the bottom there. All right, is that better?
That's much better. Thank
Okay.
you.
On the NFPA, the development agreement specifically references that we're going to do what NFPA requires as far as the roadways and access and things of that nature. I believe there is a secondary access to 308, but it is for emergency secondary purposes, not for the customers to be coming and going, unless, of course, there is an emergency where they have to evacuate or something of that nature. And then, of course, the water and sewer is currently planned for the north corner, and it will have its own access just for staff and maintenance personnel, things of that nature. Obviously, we concur with the staff recommendation, the planning commission's recommendation. As far as the turn lanes, certainly my clients aren't opposed to whatever is required. We would ask that we just be required to follow whatever your land development code requires in that regard, rather than any kind of special considerations. We anticipate a turn lane is going to be required due to the size of this park, and we have no problems with that. But specifics of that we would like to leave to your land development code if we could. That would be my only comment on that particular issue. Not asking for special consideration, just whatever your code currently requires.
Commissioner Turner, you have a question for the applicant?
Yes. When it comes to quiet times there, I think that Renegades has done a good job fixing their place up and what have you, but it seems to me like the one problem that they're having down there is that at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, you hear the music all the way in Weelaca. And I'm being a little facetious, but not by far, because they do turn it up pretty loud. Would they be open to I know that when we've had other discussions with possible RV parks in the past, that we've talked to them about possibly an earlier quiet time in the evening or whatever, where or maybe they'd at least have to go across the Renegades or something if they wanted 11 o'clock music, because there's not much we can do about it at this point. To have two of them right across the street from one another and both of them being pretty loud, I don't know if that would be advantageous to the neighborhood.
I don't think they'd be opposed to that, depending. I guess one of the issues, the main issue they have is not so much for maybe a regular person with a guitar at the restaurant kind of thing, but if they're having a special event like a wedding or something like that, they wanted to leave open the opportunity to meet these particular hours. That's what they spoke to me about. That was their main concern with the hours, was the people who are having a wedding or some other kind of event, and they want to go till 11 o'clock. They want to be able to allow that. But
Well, the problem that we've run into, and I can come up with a lot of analogies, but another one's at the fairgrounds, for instance. We've got a 10 o'clock, I believe it is, quiet time at the fairground, and I've had calls at 1 o'clock in the morning that it's still raging. So it's an issue.
well, certainly it needs to be done by whatever hours you guys set, not winding down. I would agree with that. And they are here now. They snuck in on me. So we can ask them if you want to reduce that down to 10 o'clock on the weekends. Is that what you're referring to? Or
Well,
I don't know what hours you're thinking. Right now we have 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday through Thursday is 9 p.m. They're done.
I don't want to negotiate on behalf of the board, so I'd like to
Okay.
have some of the other board
Sure.
members chime in on that if that's possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Adams, that?
Yeah, I think what you're asking for makes sense. A little bit different than Renegades. Renegades is out on the water, so the noise just amplifies everywhere. This is kind of, it's centralized in the property, so it's got 20-some acres to go on all sides before the sound leaves the property. So I think the people that'll be most offended by the noise will be the people paying to be there, and hopefully they're participating in their activities if that's what they're doing. So I have no problem with 11 p.m. in this case as another board member to give you my input.
Any other comments, questions?
I'm good with the regular, so we're going to go to 10 on weekends? Is that,
No, it's currently reads 11 in the agreement.
and then we go to 10? I'm okay with
That's-
the
if that's
the
what-
11 to 9, yeah.
11 to 9 is the Sunday through Thursday. Friday and Saturday will be 11 to 11, the way it's currently written.
And Renegades gets to do what? Are they get stop at 11 or 10?
This came out of the Renegades PUD, that those hours did.
Well, I don't know how we pick and choose. I have a problem with that. I think that if you allow the person across the street to play music till 11, then you should allow this company to play till 11. I don't think it's our job to pick and choose. I don't think that's equitable, and I think part of our job is to be equitable. That's my thoughts.
Commissioner Turner?
I think that part of our job is also that if we've made a mistake in the past, not to make that mistake again if possible. And so I think that it's shown by just the problems that they've had down there in the past with late night music, noise and what have you, that I would feel more comfortable with it being backed off till 10 o'clock. And I don't think that would keep them from being able to do the things they want to do. And then hopefully if we have a 10 o'clock in there and they'll get it cut off by 11 or 11:30. I mean, we've all been to places where that happened, where it went on past time. So I would be more comfortable with the 10.
Patrick, I have a question for you. The 24-month to 36-month extension that you're requesting for development, is that correct?
Yes.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm getting, from where I sit, PUDs are becoming more and more used, I think, to circumvent some of our zoning. I'm just going to speak as myself, and I'm frustrated with some of this. I think PUDs were designed for the the anomalies that are out there. But we recently, this board, or maybe myself, and I'll just say that, found a PUD in the East Palac area that's been kind of dormant for a long time. I don't want these PUDs to be dormant. I don't want them to sit out there for 3 years doing nothing, or maybe being sold to somebody else. I mean, I think the intention is, if we're going to approve it, then we should see something happen to it immediately. And that's how I feel. I might be the only commissioner that feels that way, but I don't see the point in going 36 months, but that's just me.
Well, and
Where's that stated?
for a project of this nature, it can sometimes be more about the financing, putting the money together. Doesn't happen overnight, and you also want to try to hit the interest rates as best you can and things of that nature. Go into it's not just about moving the dirt. It's about putting all that stuff up front before you put in the dirt. The design is going to take some time. DRC is going to take some time, so it's not just about how long it's going to take to get the bulldozers out there. It's about all the stuff you have to do before you can put bulldozers out there. So I appreciate your concern. I will say this, the PUD is required by your code with regard to overnight recreational parks.
Yeah, I know.
So we had to do it this way.
Yeah.
But that said, 2 years is a little tight. If we were going to try to put that 2-year limitation in, we'd like some language that gives some flexibility. If we're showing some due diligence on these other issues, such as financing and permitting, that we're working on it. But the idea that you can move dirt within 2 years is not always feasible for a project of this nature. And there was another question I want to make sure we answered. The bathroom facilities and things of that nature that will support each phase will be going in for this project. It just makes good business sense for an RV park, but it's also, as indicated, required by your code. So anything that's necessary to support whatever phases are going in will be put in before we're allowed to occupy that phase.
Zach, you had a question or an answer?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add to the conversation regarding the deadlines for completion or commencing construction. Our own land development code stipulates that if a deadline is not identified in the development agreement, that it should be eligible for commencement for up to 48 months. So just wanted to add that out there as well. The 24 to 36 is kind of common to see.
Still might be a little too long, but that's my opinion. Mr. Turner, you have the floor.
Zach, what would be the scenario if they started within their 36 months with phase one, but then they didn't go on to any of the additional phases? It looks to me like they've got it five phases out, and the maximum phase 5 is within 10 years. What if they don't go do phase 2, 3, 4, and 5?
So at face value, they'd be found to be in violation of their development agreement for not completing the phases. But at the same time, they would have the opportunity through working with staff to come back and approach the board for an extension of their timeline. They would have to provide with, circumstances causing the delays, but that would be the route we would take.
Or they could ask to just not do the additional phases if they had the amenities that justified the phases they had already done.
Yes, sir. They could amend to cap it at whatever the development they had at that point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, good question. When I spoke to Mr. McCoy about this project, my biggest concern was, well, definitely traffic, but then noise. So I'm in favor. I understand we've got renegades at 11, and it does just echo down the river is the problem. This is a little different situation. It's across the road and not in the middle of it, close to be the middle of this property, but I do think we need to consider a 10 o'clock quiet hour on the weekend. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, Patrick, thank you for coming. Now we're going to open up this to our public. So is there anyone here that would like to speak? And let's just say in favor or against. So please work your way up to the podium. You will be timed for 3 minutes. We would ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and keep them very civil, if you will. No shouting out. Come on up. State your name, address, county that you live in, please.
My name's Thomas Yajicek. I live at 105 Elvira Street in southeast Putnam County, down 309 from both Renegades and the proposed properties. My concerns are for emergency purposes and also public health and safety. As far as their development meeting the criteria of each phase having a septic system that's in place, once all those properties are developed, will it be overwhelming the area's ability to absorb all the toxins out of the water table, because 90% of us down there are on wells. I don't think there is any other than small public facilities in a few spots that do their own water purification. And in an emergency, there's not enough road access out 308 or 309 if there was an emergency reason to evacuate the area. The roads could not handle the motion of all that traffic at one time. You have not finished the extension of 17 down through Crescent City either. So it's going to bottleneck, and people are not going to be able to get out if there's an emergency, such as forest fires from maybe Georgetown Preserve, Willaca State Forest. There's a lot of open forest in that area, and we all know it turns into a tinderbox sometimes of the year. I don't think the safety issues have been addressed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak in favor or opposition of this request? Going once, twice, three times? Okay, we're going to shut our public meeting off. And commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, do I have to read this by title?
Yeah.
Okay, so the ordinance number 2024, is that correct? On 45?
Do we have a number for that ordinance? Yeah. It's just not listed on page, it's 17.
Okay, so with the discussion, Commissioner Turner, do you think we should just allow the DRC to handle the turn lane situation? I mean, I don't see how they can do it without a turn lane. And I also agree with the 10 o'clock on the quiet time for the weekend.
In my opinion, if you were asking my opinion, I think we should put it in there. I think that we should just put it in there that turn lanes will be required and they'll be designed by the DRC.
Okay, I make the motion that we approve PUD 24-00003, an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the Putnam County zoning map for a certain parcel of land from residential 1A to R1A and commercial C1 to planned unit development, providing for a development agreement, providing for servability, and providing for an effective date, with the caveat that turn lanes are required. They're working with the DRC to develop those plans, and also a 10 o'clock quiet time on the weekends.
I'll second that motion. Under discussion, Mr. Chairman.
We have proper motion and this proper second under discussion, Mr. Turner.
I also think we need to add in there that the one-way roads are going to be a minimum of 20 foot and the two-way roads a minimum of 24, because that is a requirement. And that's not what's in there now.
Would you like to amend your motion, Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, I will amend the motion, and I have a question. I'll amend the motion.
Please.
I'll amend the second.
Okay, Patrick addressed
You are
roads. If I missed it, that I thought that they would be to the standard that you were talking about, which I think these two widths are.
There is some flexibility inside that code for one-way streets, two-way streets, and the minimum clearance, but it isn't defined in NFPA 1, Chapter 14, I think it is, of what the minimum requirements are. So we would enforce whatever the minimum requirements are in that NFPA code.
But in our motion, if we designate what size road, then that's going to be the way the development's going to be.
That they're a minimum of that size.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But
I
they,
have, if I may mention.
You may.
I have an email from your fire marshal that someone gave me that he came up with these. I didn't dream them up, of the 20-foot minimums for runway and for one-way and 24-foot minimums with and then they additionally added in there that they had to be at least 13 foot something in height
13.6 in height,
and what
correct.
have you. That was in that code. So that's where I came up with those numbers. That was straight out of the email that I got from the fire marshal.
And I spoke to the fire marshal following that conversation, and there is some exclusions where you can put one-way streets down to a minimum of 14.
Right now, the motion stands amended with 20-foot one-way and 24-foot directional, both directions. Is that correct? And you've
Yes,
amended
sir.
your motion, and you've seconded the motion?
Yes.
So is there any further discussion on the motion at hand? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next will be rezone to PUD 24-00004, Charles Alford and Catherine Clapp, ordinance number 2024-017.
Thank you,
Zach.
Chairman. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is an application to amend the Putnam County zoning map from agriculture to planned unit development. This is 4 parcels comprising a total of 165 acres of land. The applicant is seeking approval for the establishment of a mixed-use subdivision and residential development with a maximum of 580 single-family homes, which is a residential density of 3.5 units per acre. It would also include approximately 60,000 square feet of non-residential commercial space, an amenity center, park. Infrastructure within the subdivision would include access roads, internal roadways, sidewalks, lift stations, and stormwater management. The parcels are designated urban services on the adopted future land use map. Vacant, undeveloped parcels have approximately 3,500 feet of paved road frontage along State Road 207 and approximately 3,500 feet of unpaved road frontage on Alfred Road, which would become paved if the development is approved. The parcels are also affected by approximately 6 acres of jurisdictional wetlands. This slide is designated to kind of summarize the concessions that were determined after the first reading held on July 23rd, 24. Of those would include minimum 50-foot lot widths, 5,000 square foot minimum lot areas, and increasing the side yard setback from 5 to 7.5 feet. Also included are 24-foot minimum interior roads that are paved, the inclusion of a 2-car garage on each home, plus parking for 2 cars in each driveway, total of 4 spots per home site. Modification to the perimeter buffer language to ensure a minimum 30-foot separation between the improvements of this project and adjoining boundary lines of other parcels. There's also kind of some new language for the creation of a CDD or HOA, kind of giving the developer options on that. And then improvement options for Alfred Road. Those amendments can be seen in explicit detail by referring to page, apologies, 153 of the agenda. That is a supporting development agreement. So after approval, if approved today, the developer will be required to submit their subdivision plat. We get a preliminary plat that comes in, it goes to DRC, the Development Review Committee. They're not only going to make sure that this development complies with local county regulations, also the development agreement and the conditions established within that development agreement, as well as statutory requirements for the creation of a new subdivision plat. Once the development review feels that the applicant has satisfied all of those design standards, we will schedule the plat itself for consideration in front of the Planning Commission and then Board of County Commissioners. At that time, the chairman of the board would be recommended to either approve or deny a preliminary development order, preliminary plat. That would allow the developers to obtain site work permits so that they can go in and start laying the infrastructure, putting in roads, stormwater, power, utilities, so on and so forth. Once all that work is completed and the infrastructure is in place, they would then submit their final plat. Final plat would also include as-builts of all those infrastructure components. We will know where every manhole is located, every sewer and water line, power, all of the details to support this development. Only then will the final plat come back to the Board of County Commissioners. Typically it's done as a consent agenda item, but of course it can be pulled for further discussion. At that time, it would be requested, if all is compliant, that the chairman sign the final plat. That plat is then recorded, and then the applicant can start selling lots or developing those lots. That whole process is kind of summarized in these next 2 slides, so I'll just skip over those. Here we can see an aerial of the property. It is currently cropland, with the exception of like that southeast corner. It's kind of got the jurisdictional wetlands and other wooded areas. The future land use map, we can show the entire property is within the urban service map category, as well as being surrounded by the urban service map category. The zoning is agriculture. There are some commercial and industrial uses around it. It's worth noting, too, that agriculture, one of the primary uses in that zoning district, is single-family residential. So here we can see a FEMA flood map showing that the property is majority within FEMA flood zone X. Here you have your wetland map. This came from the applicant kind of to show some of their options for the reconstruction or configuration of Alford Road, if you will. So this is a newer conceptual plan than the one we saw at the last public hearing, and I kind of exploded out the possible cul-de-sac for Alford Road. So staff is recommending approval on this. At the Planning Commission meeting on June 12th, 2024, we received a 5-2 recommendation for approval as well. I can take any questions.
Commissioner Wilkinson, you have the floor.
Are there any timeframes on this as far as development if it were to move forward? I know in the last one we specifically said 24 to 36 months. What's the timeframes on this?
So the applicant has identified a single phase to be completed within 10 years.
Okay.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
The applicant has provided a single phase development to be completed within 10 years.
10 years. Any other questions? Mr. Turner?
So in DRC, part of the process would be for the DRC committee to come up with an offset for capacity on the sewer system. In other words, they would either come up with a fair share assessment to expand the current plan, or to handle this, or they would make them put in a plant, whichever was advantageous, I guess, in y'all's negotiations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So one of the chairs for the Development Review Committee is the Putnam County Utilities Department. We have Scott Knowles that kind of sits with that as well. But yes, they would assess whether or not our plant and all facilities have capacity for this use, and if there is if there's not enough, if it's deficient, then we will require either the applicant develop their own wastewater system, or pay into the expansion of our storm or wastewater system.
Okay, and so I guess I'm not communicating well. The developer would not necessarily have to furnish the capacity that they're going to be taking if that capacity is already available somewhat, because our projected capacity is getting toward the limits. So my concern is the developer needs to offset the cost of whatever capacity they use. Are you saying that's possible, or that we have to give them whatever capacity that we have until we run out of capacity?
So it's not necessarily we give that to them. There are connection fees associated with connecting to our utilities. And it would either be a connection fee or an impact fee, whichever is relevant at that time of the development. But they either connect to ours if we have the capacity available with the appropriate fees, or they expand our current system, or they develop their own on-site system.
Okay, if it was deemed, you and I had a conversation, I think it was Friday, that if it was deemed that we didn't have the capacity, or couldn't furnish the sewer for it at the capacity level needed, that would mean that the maximum density would be 2 units per acre. Is that correct?
That is correct. But I don't know that the DRC would be supportive of this type of subdivision without those utilities being in place.
I don't know that I would be either. So that's why I'm asking that question.
Yes, sir. But there is a safeguard within the future land use category that if water or sewer are not provided to the property, then their density cannot exceed 2 units an acre.
Okay. Would they be able to cluster because of the wetland, and so to a maximum density for the whole site?
They could cluster, but they could not exceed the 2 units per acre for the entire property.
Including the wetland, though.
Yes, sir. We have a wetland transfer in play.
All right, that's all I have for now, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Along those lines, and before I move on to Mr. Adamsack, one of my concerns last meeting is the same as this meeting. Zach, you made mention of paying into a future expansion. Where that plant is located now, there might not be room for future expansion there, and we all know that. So I think that telling a developer that there might be something you can buy into might not be the best idea. So I've asked JR to kind of look at our re-ribbing that took place and where we're at right now. So JR, I'm going to turn the floor over to you about the future. And also, let me say this before I do turn it over to him. We made a lot of promises out there to people and to other agencies to take septic to sewer conversion, all the way from basically Dunn's Creek back up. And if we really had everybody on the system, we'd be overcapacitated now at this point. So I think we're a victim of our own success in that area, which needed to happen. But truly, we need to be very mindful. I'm all for development, don't get me wrong, but it's got to have the right parameters in place. And telling someone that we have capacity might not be the true statement. So, JR, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute.
So we've checked our capacities. We've got a RIB rate, which allows us to treat 300,000 gallons a day of effluent. Currently, I talked to Mr. Jackson this morning, which is our wastewater operator, and we're currently treating 134,000 gallons on average a day effluent today. And that's with 178 customers. The anomaly in there is PCI, which is Putnam Correctional Institute, which uses a lot of water. So if you use the average, and is about 300 gallons per day per residence is an accurate number. Currently, right now, in our septic to sewer phase 4 construction, which is a board initiative that we did, and we took money from the Water Management District and DEP, we're going to go in front of 400 rooftops. So if we were to get all 400 of those, which the statute says, and Mr. Commando could weigh in on this, that if it's in front of your home, they have 365 days to hook to it, if we enforced it that way. And if we did at 300 gallons, that's 120,000. So that takes us up over 250 to 300,000 gallons per day, which would get us close to a maximum that we are able to treat with just a septic to sewer phase 4 project, which is under design and should be completed. The design's due back to us by October. Did that answer your question, sir?
It does. It really does. Because I've asked you to make up a list of things that we promised people to do. And that's, we did put promises out there to agencies and to our people to get them off of.
Yes, sir. And the only other place that we did any construction in this area, aside from what we already currently have, is we just did the Overlook and Rio Vista loop, which is only going to produce 17 or 18, 20 customers in that area. It was just one of those small ones that we had on the west side of Highway 17 that didn't have sewer.
Before I turn it over to Mr. Adamsack, I do want to say to you, but there's other ways to meet that. We could spray fields and stuff like that. So would you explain that real quick?
Yeah, there's a lot of different options. Reuse would be one of them. I know that there's some of the surrounding counties around us use reuse as a requirement of their subdivision, is they're required to use reuse water for their irrigation and not use treated groundwater. That's our problem now is we're kind of landlocked in that 25 acre facility we have there with our current ribs. So that kind of is what throws us off, where we just can't arbitrarily go out and put another rib in to treat additional. Now we can add on to the plant to treat additional effluent, but the problem is we don't have anywhere to put it, right? The city of Palaca puts some of theirs in a sod farm and uses it for reuse water. They put it on their golf course. They've got an area at the airport they utilize. River Park in Fruitland uses the golf course there to do reuse. But the problem is, comes in times of the year like we're currently in, when there's plenty of groundwater, they're not going to want to sit there and continually to irrigate the yard when they're already got plenty of water on top of the ground. So we got to be cognizant. So, you'd be looking for some kind of reuse plan or something, or an additional spray field or a way to procure land somewhere else to build additional ribs. There's a lot of different things I believe you could work out, but they're just not on the table today.
Thank you, JR. Mr. Adams-Zach, you have the floor.
I think, JR, you answered the question that I had, and it basically is that we don't have enough ribs. It's not that we can't have enough of those big tanks to do more, because we could always add those. So you answered the question, but that's for the public to understand. There's only so much of a field that when it's treated that we could dump it into, that it eventually seeps into the ground. And that's just a high-level understanding that I had from the tour that I had. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We currently have 8 ribs, and we've maximized the amount of land we have to put beds in.
Mr. Turner, you have the floor.
Capacity has always been a tricky animal to figure. It's easy to sit here and say that we're bumping up against capacity, but those are the same figures that's made us run at less than 50% since the plant was first operated to start with. If you take the reality of the situation, when you run a backbone, you don't get 100% participation. You get a percentage of that. And if you look back on the ones that weren't required or that we didn't have to hook up as part of the grant, like at Pico Road area, we had to hook those people up, but I don't even think we have everybody in there either. We just have a percentage of them, because nobody's going to go in there and tell them that if you don't dig up your septic tank, we're going to run you out of your house. Nobody's going to do that. And so you get a percentage of it. So I think that while we're discussing these capacity issues, I think we just need to be very cognizant of the fact that you're not going to get 100% of the people that are in the area. And the board has been trying to make the sewer system and water system self-sustainable now for a couple of years. And if we figure our capacity like we've been figuring capacity, it's going to never be sustainable, because we're going to be running at 50% capacity, or maybe 60% capacity. That plant needs to run at 70 to 80% capacity, and then whenever you get to bumping on the capacity, that's when you go to the people who are using that capacity up and make them pay more money as their fair share to get some more capacity, whether that's building a new sewer plant, or whether that's expanding the sewer plant that we have, buying more property, or using some of FPL's power lines for additional spray fields, or adding another set of ribs. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done that may not be as expensive as putting in a complete sewer plant would be for somebody. So that's why the negotiation has to be done at that phase, and make sure that we don't run ourselves into a problem. But we just can't continue like we've done since that sewer plant was built, and say, ooh, if we're not careful and we let somebody come in, then we're going to use up our sewer plant, and so it runs at 40%. And we actually have to supplement with taxpayers' money instead of letting the thing run itself and pay for itself, which is what we should be trying to do.
I agree. Commissioner Wilkinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. JR, somebody mentioned salinity. Another farmer mentioned salinity to me yesterday in conversation. Do you feel like this development would have an issue with salinity in the water?
I mean, development can always have that problem, right? When you pull too much fresh out and you get saltwater intrusion, which I think we've dealt with for many, many years over there. But that's when our water plant was built. It was built around the design for salinity. It is an RO plant that's currently there that can remove the salinity out of the water. You know, each one of these irrigation wells is permitted for whatever it is through the water management district. Most of them usually get 1 million gallon a day allotment. That's the same allotment that we have for our current wells that we have at the water plant. So we are not using anywhere near the capacity that we already have permitted to us through the water management district. So we're using, I think, around 250,000 gallons a day at a 1 million gallon a day plant. So we're running at 25% capacity in our own current consumptive use permits. So we have the ability through the water management, which is who does the studies on that says you guys are good for 1 million gallons a day. What is that development going to use? I don't know. I mean, probably around 300 gallons per house per day, which would give you at 700, you're looking at 210,000 gallons a day, which would put you at about 50% capacity of your water plant. But it was designed when it was done back in 2009, was designed to go to a 2 million gallon a day plant, right? So there's options for expansion in that plant as well. It's just not done today. They kind of, every one of our plants was kind of built to be able to be built on too. So salinity, that's a real dangerous question to answer, because I mean, at some point you're removing a flood irrigation that they're using now to water crops. Are you going to stop using that? Probably. So it's a direct trade, maybe. I mean, it's really a real difficult question to answer.
Okay, well, thank you. You did a good job with that. And then Zachary or Jennifer, I'm not sure who handled the rest of the questions. Is there a preliminary stormwater plan, or does that happen during the development review?
We've not received a preliminary stormwater plan, but stormwater is one of the components that the DRC reviews. St. Johns River Water Management District has a seat at our DRC table as well.
Okay. And with the new density and the setbacks, our new density is what, 580 maximum houses?
Yes, ma'am, a max 580 houses, which would be a residential density of 3.51 repeating units per acre.
Okay, thank you. And another question, is row crop land considered intensive agriculture?
No, ma'am, that would be considered general agriculture.
Okay. Okay, and I believe that most of these questions regarding the capacity was addressed on page 157 in paragraph 3.7, where it talks about the development will connect to county-owned sewer and wastewater facilities. The developer shall contribute to the extension of water and/or sewer lines and to increase capacity of the county infrastructure, providing such utilities if needed. And then it goes on to say that applicable water sewer tap fees as provided in the Putnam County fee schedule shall be imposed on the developer during construction of this project. So I know we had asked for that in the last meeting, so I appreciate you getting that cleared up. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilkinson. Commissioner Adams.
Yeah, so if they do 580 homes, that puts us at maximum capacity just with that. So times 300 is 174 plus the 134 JR said, that puts us over the 300,000 we're speaking about. That's if we don't add another person for septic to sewer. And that's if the other trailer park thing that we're being sued for that we denied actually passes, because we lose the suit or we decide to make a settlement, which is another 100 some houses. So I think this just sets us up for disaster. I don't see where we have a place, unless if the property to the left of the sewer facility is very wet and drops right off. The property behind it's similar, so the only way you could do it is to the right. I guess that's the west of the property. And I don't know if that property is available for sale or for purchase, so how would we even expand that is my concern. And I don't want us or the developer to get in a situation where we're like, well, you told us we might be able to expand, and they say, it just seems like chaos. But just want to add that to it.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. JR?
I would just, Mr. Adams' concern about the property right there. Property doesn't necessarily have to be right there, right? It's just like running the reuse line. We could run a affluent line to a piece of property a mile away, and if the county had 100 acres a mile away, nothing says it has to be kept on that site. We could move it somewhere else. So I don't want us to get that we're landlocked there. We could always put an affluent pipe and send it to a treated pipe somewhere else, much like we would a reuse line or something if we found a partner that wanted to do a cattle farm or hay farm operation where they wanted to use reclaimed water. I mean, there's a lot of different options that you could use.
Could we spray it on a solar farm? I'm just asking. It's right down the road. Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right. Is the applicant here and would like to speak?
Do we have IT here?
They were. I think they're in the booth. There they come.
If you like that noise, you can hit that button again and it'll do the same.
Do you have a USB plugged in?
We're going to take a 3-minute break. We had to fit those chairs to be here. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how they do that. They're committed.
It died.
Died, or did?
No, it's.
Yeah.
Gotta get re-entered.
Yeah. Well, we're not short of problems in the county, that's for sure.
No matter where I go.
Yeah, it's like, man.
Hey, Lou, how you doing?
There's another problem coming Monday morning.
Right.
They just don't end.
Did it just freeze up? I started doing government work. Rob Bradley said, the hardest thing is I wish you just have the same problem twice.
That's just true. We've done that. Yes, we've done that. I got the answer. Yeah, you're right.
We'll do that later.
Should be good, I think, maybe?
Are we good?
Probably not.
How we doing? Not very good? Doesn't look well, huh? There we go. All right, if everybody could find their seats, we'll get started as soon as everybody's back together.
Hi, Terry. This is Carol Saviak. Give me a call when you get a chance. Thanks.
Okay.
Just to check in.
Like I blew my hearing up when I stuck it in my ear.
Video go on. All right, we're going to call our meeting back.
Through that whole show that we did the last time. I think everybody's seen that. I want to address what we have changed in response to the comments from the board and from the audience. First, we did reduce it from a max of 700 to 580. We increased the minimum lot size from 4,000 to 5 with a 50-foot minimum. The density went from 5 units per acre to 3.5 in a land use that allows up to 24. We increased the side setbacks from 5 to 7.5, so there's a minimum of 15 feet between buildings. We will put a privacy fence all the way around the property. We'll put it on the rear lot lines so that the buffer, the 20-foot buffer, will be outside the fence. That way we can grass it, and our neighbors won't have a fence right on their property line to have to worry about if they're trying to turn equipment or whatever. We are putting in 4 parking spaces, a 2-car garage, and a 2-car driveway on every lot. At the suggestion of the planning department, we added 6-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of Alford Road from 207 back to where the amenity center is, which I think will make a really nice presentation there. Increase the roads from 20 feet of pavement to 24 feet, again, as requested. And these are all curb and gutter, so really back of curb to back of curb ends up being 27 feet, which is plenty of space. We will contribute to the water sewer if we've got to expand it. I think we all know we have to do that. And we will pay connection fees for the water and sewer like we do everywhere. So we will be able to help that plant get closer to capacity. We realize there's not capacity. We get that. We're going to have to work with JR, with the county, to try and figure out where we go. But we don't need that capacity immediately. And I understand we don't have the right and would not go try and buy it all up so that nobody else can get in. But we will spend 9 months to a year getting our permits. We will spend close to a year just developing the first phase. So it's over 2 years before we bring on our first homes. So even if the neighborhood does really well, which I think it will, it's going to take us 8 to 10 years to build all the houses in there. So during that period of time, we should be able to figure out the expansions that need to be taken care of. So here's the site plan. We've made a few changes. The biggest change is at the end of Alford Road, we're showing a cul-de-sac now. We would propose to make that a paved cul-de-sac with a curb, which should discourage the through traffic. And then we came up with a list to present to you of ways that we could deal with it. So we would leave the existing road. It's a county road, dirt road. We'd pave our part with a cul-de-sac at the end. And there are a number of ways we could treat it. We could have the fence go right across it so that without running into a fence, you could not drive down toward Cracker Swamp. We could put in what's called a crash gate, which physically blocks it but can be pushed open by the fire department, emergency services, whatever. We could have no fence with a sign saying emergency vehicles only, or no through traffic, local traffic only. And none of those is a problem for us as a developer, because our traffic is going to be coming and going from 207. So we will do it whichever way this board would like, or we can leave it to the DRC and do it as they ask us to. I know we talked about traffic, and I just wanted to show again from your staff report, we're, even after all the homes are built, will be less than half of capacity on 207. Staff recommended approval. Planning Commission recommended approval. And that is the end of what I've got here. One thing I mentioned, or would mention, is we talked about salt intrusion, which I understand comes from some of the irrigation wells. Obviously, we will be capping the wells on this property in accordance
built on row crop land in the past.
Have we built on row crop before? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And how do you your normal day-to-day business when you set up these developments in other areas that you're selling homes? I mean, you've got your own staff that sells them, is that correct?
Yes, but probably close to 80% of our stuff is done with realtors. We will have, our salespeople will be in the model.
Right.
They will write up the contracts. If someone wanders in without a realtor, then they will deal with them. But the majority of the customers we get are a realtor bringing someone into our sales office working with our staff.
Okay, all right. Those are my questions.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we're going to open the public hearing part for those people who would like to, and I did fail to mention, the last one, the blue cards are in the back of the building back here on both sides, and the entrances coming in. Would like for you to fill out one. You don't have to. Would like your name, address, and county that you live in when you come up and speak, please. So we'll start off with Willie McKinnon. I'm sorry. Mr. McKinnon, if you'll state your name and address and county, please.
My name is Willie McKinnon. I live at 391 State Road 207. I will be directly affected by this development with traffic flow and all that. I'm not opposed to growth either. I heard y'all say that, some of y'all say we need the growth. We do need growth in Putnam County, but we need jobs in Putnam County more than we need the growth, because we're automatically getting growth from the counties around us with people escaping the high taxes. So as far as this project goes, it ruins a way of life for me. All of my life I've lived in East Palatka. In the early years of growing up, I could have told you every neighbor in East Palatka. Now, you don't know your neighbors except for a few. I know the Tiltons and some of the others. But I want y'all to realize this is a way of life. It's not just property that's being sold and developed. It is a way of life for a whole group of people, and you're changing it by allowing them to put in 500, 600, 700 acres of houses. I mean, you know, and from what I understand, that's not where they want to stop at. They want to take the rest of the agricultural land and develop it too. At one time, the county had a plan that as soon as some of the farmers retired, they were going to buy 500, 600 acres and put in an industrial park. We're still waiting on that. We need people to understand that represent us, that we don't like high taxes. That's why we live here. And we do want jobs to keep our children living in the area. But as far as major development, big housing developments, most of us couldn't afford that to start with, which means sooner or later we're going to be forced out because of taxes getting higher and higher, and we can't afford to live here. All of my life I have lived in Putnam County. I went to Putnam County schools, and I enjoyed my life growing up. You could go hunting, fishing, all of that kind of stuff. And I've given up that part because I'm too old. But I want you to know I still worry for my children and my grandchildren that they might have some of what I had growing up. And I would ask y'all to consider just rejecting the project and allow natural growth to occur in our county, because it is growing, and it's growing rapidly. No matter what road you get on, there's a lot of traffic. And it's not just passing through. They're living here. And that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Mr.
I have
Evans,
a
you
question
comment?
for him real quick. Mr. McKinnon,
That's fine.
when you say natural growth, can you explain what you mean by natural growth?
Well, the natural growth that I have seen lately is people in St. John's and Volusia and other counties are moving here just to escape the high taxes and all. And they're buying little places, and they're putting in mobile homes, or they're putting in a small house or something like that. And that, to me, is more natural than bringing in 500 homes on a piece of agricultural land just to have the homes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yep, thank you. I was remiss to say earlier, and I need to you will be limited to 3 minutes of your conversation. If you run over, we're just going to ask you to try to wrap it up as quickly as possible. We are keeping time. We have a lot of cards to go through today. Our next speaker, Mr. Mark Spalding.
Mark Spalding, 3400 Crow Avenue, Palatka. Chairman, Commissioner, staff, just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here. I will be short and sweet this morning as I normally am, but the Alford family has already allotted an additional 500 acres in another part of our farming community to be turned into cropland. In the previous conversation, in the previous meeting, there was worry about removing cropland from our area, and they have already begun the process of converting some additional land and had conversation with the existing tenant on this property about leasing that land at some point. So they'll more than putting back into supply what they're removing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Spalding. Marlene Lagasse. And again, if you'll state your name and address and county for the record, please.
Marlene Lagasse, 125 Cypress Point Circle, East Palatka, Putnam County, Florida.
Sorry, I messed up your name.
That's okay, everyone does that. My biggest, you've addressed a lot of my concerns that I've had today is the water and sewer. I live in East Palatka, I'm on the river, and I have a septic tank. I would love water and sewer at my house, okay? Then I wouldn't have to deal with the septic tank, the pumps, and the salty water that we get from the wells. So if you will just think about this, what's best for us in the county? We need growth, that's for sure. Subdivisions are coming, but you guys need to do your due diligence on that to make sure that it's going to work out for us. People will say, I'm new to the county, I've only been here 22 years, right? We've got people that have lived here all their life, and I want for my grandchildren the same thing they do. So look at the developers that are coming in. I like that you ask about timelines because I work in St. Johns County, and I do see developments over there that get started, there's a PUD, they put the infrastructure in, and it sits vacant for years. What we don't need is a vacant subdivision on 207. That makes us look ugly, and it makes it look like we don't value or we're not valued here as a county. Everyone is going to flock to Putnam County. We don't have impact fees. I know you're doing a study on impact fees, but there is a moratorium on impact fees, which you guys could actually lift. Right now, a developer coming in for a subdivision this large, if they built it in St. Johns County, it would cost them $8 million in impact fees. $8 million that we are leaving on the table, okay? So you as a commission need to value the property and everything that we have here. So you could do the moratorium, lift up, put impact fees on, which would help with the development, controlling it. Let's not get crazy and end up like St. Johns County and price the locals out of our county. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Turner?
Marine.
Marlene?
Marlene.
Just to let you know, we visited impact fees, and because the study that was done back when the moratorium started is so old, they wouldn't let us reenact those impact fees without a study. The study has been funded by us, and it's underway at the present time, but until that study's done, we cannot re-implement impact fees, just to let you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll do that.
Thank you. There's something going on here. Gina Counts?
Imagine that, it broke again.
Right. Guys, it looks like my picture is broke again here, so there we go. Thank you.
Might have been operator error.
Miss Gina, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You need to restart my 3 minutes.
We
Yes,
will.
ma'am, you're correct.
We got you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Gina Tilton Counts. I live at 9470 Barrel Factory Road, Hastings, Florida. My husband and I, along with our 4 grown kids, their spouses, our grandchildren, we own and operate a cattle ranch in which we all live on. The proposed development is 3/10 of a mile from our ranch, and the site can be seen from our property across the pasture. I'm here again in opposition to granting a special variance to allow a high-density residential planned unit development that borders an intensive agricultural industry. This type of change is not compatible with the agrarian nature of the surrounding lands and can be defined as planned urban sprawl. It's obvious the impact that this would have, and just to name a few, the traffic issues, pressure on the natural environment, overcrowded schools, increase in property taxes, drainage issues, and there are many, many more problems that this could cause or will cause. I have been witnessing this type of development in St. Johns County, and it has caused a lot of problems. Once it starts, it doesn't slow down. All this planned growth has not been held accountable and has been allowed to continue and has not created the desired result of the increased revenue that was supposed to solve all the problems. I remind you, the planning and zoning meeting that I attended and spoke at pertaining to this was terrible. Most of the board seemed to feel this was not a correct fit for the area. However, they seemed forced to vote for it. At least one board member had a conflict of interest, an appearance of impropriety that was not disclosed. In closing, I would like to emphasize the severe impact that a high-density residential development will have on our county's agriculture, ranching, and farming community, and there will be many more problems that come with it. So please consider this in your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gina. Mr. Jet Counts?
Jed, if you're going to call a scurvy, do that first
we're
this
not,
time.
We're not doing that. He's not
I'm
gonna
just playing with him, Mr.
Okay.
My name is Jet Counts. I live at 120 Turner Road, East Palatka, Putnam County, Florida. My house is about a half a mile from where the subdivision is supposed to go, and if it is approved, I will have the great disappointment of being able to look across the tater fields from my front porch and see the terrible cancer that y'all let into this county. As we know, this proposal is in complete opposition with Goal A1 of the Comprehensive Plan. If you go just a little bit further, you'll find Policy A1.4.2, which states the Land Development Code shall provide protection measures for the continuation of agricultural use within the county. The county shall analyze land use changes and development activities proposed adjacent to existing agriculture areas to ensure compatibility with agricultural uses. Not only is this adjacent to ag land, it will be on top of ag land. If you go to the next policy, A1.4.3, that states residential, commercial, or industrial uses shall not be permitted as a mixed use in the agricultural area where such uses will adversely impact on the agricultural productivity of the area. For example, community reaction to agricultural odors and noises, or livestock reaction to development noises and activities that could result in litigation requiring reduced levels of agricultural activity. I can't count how many people have already stated that this community reaction to agriculture odors and noises will result in litigation requiring reduced levels of agriculture activity. Policy A1.6.5 states all applications for comprehensive plan future land use amendment shall provide justification for the need for the proposed map amendment and demonstrate how the proposed amendment would minimize or altogether avoid urban sprawl as defined herein. As Commissioner Adamczak has stated, this is urban sprawl. if anyone needs a definition, I think some of the commissioners need to look at the definition. It's pretty much the whole page 39 of the comprehensive plan and gives many examples of exactly what this subdivision will do. There are many more policies and objectives of this comprehensive plan that the subdivision totally defies, but that's about as much time as I have to speak on that. If you keep on going through policies B through J, I'm sure that there will be plenty of more deviations that this subdivision will have. I hope that y'all choose the right decision on your votes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Jody Counts?
I'm Jody Counts, 331 Cracker Swamp Road. Definitely against it, 100% with my family. My brother couldn't have said it better. This will destroy agriculture around the area. And if you don't believe that, you don't know much about agriculture, just take a drive through the surrounding counties, Clay County, St. John's, Flagler, and you can see, it takes over. And that's the goal. Get it out in the middle, get it out there, and then it'll spread like wildfire. We use land around there for agriculture. We drive down these roads with equipment, livestock, cattle, people. It's already getting way too crowded, way too many people. And have an Alford Road, little gate, little sign says through traffic. I know a lot of places say through traffic, and everybody uses it. And it's going to come out on us. Farm equipment gets hit constantly on the roads. We have people trespassing all the time. Cars running off the roads, hitting our fences, tearing stuff up. These people that move in here, they don't know about agriculture. They don't understand it. When they start getting those smells that a privacy fence is supposed to, I guess, cut out, because a fresh plowed field of cabbage or potatoes does not smell good at all. Then you get all those people complaining. There's only a few of us to stand up against it. A lot of people complain. So what is that going to do for us in agriculture right there? I just hope that y'all will have our backs on this and really consider what y'all are doing through this and what an impact it will make on East Palatka. It'll be the death of agriculture. We've already got offers, people asking, coming to us, wanting to sell. They're speculating, because as soon as this goes through, it'll be the end of it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Counts. Johnny Counts?
Gonna be hard for you to outdo either one of them boys, Johnny.
They did a great job.
They did.
Yeah.
You might not want to see them afterwards, though. No, they called it right. I'm Johnny Counts, 9470 Barrel Factory Road, Cracker Swamp, Florida. Planned urban sprawl is what this is. Put it out there on the end of it where you can backfill it in. I still have not had a redress of that planning meeting. We know that it was, at the best, poorly conducted. Nobody that I've talked to said that it was a very good meeting. There was some ethics involved. There was a chairman that didn't disclose ex parte communications, and there was also a board member that is a part of the real estate company that is doing the deal for this property that did not disclose. That's a conflict. That's ethical. And I don't agree with the 5-2 vote, because I don't believe those board members could vote their conscience. They were badgered into doing that. So that needs to be redressed. That needs to be looked at. But if that doesn't matter, then I don't know why we have a planning board. I had some meetings with commissioners right afterwards, and some of you told me that, where did these 700 houses come from? I said, well, it was at the planning commission meeting. The developer came to y'all and said 450 to 500. And so there was no real pushback on that at this last meeting we had here. The changes they made, I disagree with the density. I mean, the density is just too much for our area. It doesn't fit our area. No one else around is allowed to do anything like that. It's, it's well within doing a house or two an acre. They can do some nice 10-acre ranches. Those are pretty popular too. That fit with our area. Some industrial and commercial, that fits with us. We talked about that before. But I just can't deal with the that many people up against an intensive agricultural community. We got 3 commissioners that are leaving office. I hope this does saddle these incoming commissioners with handcuffs that they can use to say that, oh, well, that was the last commission that did this, that they're not able to make any changes. And Cracker Swamp Road should be designated as our agricultural corridor. That is a main road that we do a lot of agriculture on. Alford Road should be stopped at that development and used only for emergency access. I don't believe it should be used to come out on Cracker Swamp, because when the impact starts, as soon as the construction begins on us. We have a commissioner here that disclosed that she was part of the same company that's doing business with them, and out of the appearance of propriety, I would ask her to recuse herself just for that, just to keep this body integrity as a governing body. And I hope you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Counts. Mr. Larry Tilton?
I'm Larry Tilton. I've lived 340 East Cracker Swamp Road for 58 years, and in the East Palatka area before that, except for a few years when I was in Southwest Putnam. Before I start saying what I got to say, I'd like to follow up on Mr. Spaulding's statements. What he said was basically true, but he didn't go far enough. The timberland the Alfords are clearing for farmland is in Flagler County, and that's not going to help the agricultural industry in Putnam County. I assume this board has studied this proposal and understands the havoc it will create on highways 207, 17, and 100. I assume if you care enough about the future of Putnam County and the quality of life we enjoy, that you understand proposals like this would destroy, and that you understand the destruction it will bring. I assume you understand this proposal is cancer and will spread until it kills the whole body. The agricultural industry will die, with it millions of dollars in annual revenue and hundreds of jobs. And for what? Exchange it for a ghetto that will prove a liability on Putnam County. I ask you to put Putnam County ahead of your obligation to the state real estate industry and the thousands of dollars they may have contributed to your campaign. Do not do this. Vote it down. If you got any questions or statements you want to throw at me, I'm ready.
Thank you, Mr. Tilton. Thank you for coming. Mr. Marshall Rawson, if you'll please come up, state your name and address and county for the record, please.
I'm Marshall Clayton Rawson. My address is 10528 U.S. Highway 301, Hampton, Florida. And while I do not live in Putnam County, I invest in Putnam County. I run an organization in Putnam County, and I own ag land adjacent to this county. I've come out here today not only to support a friend and friends, but to defend Florida, its culture, our environment, food security, and quality of life. By 2060, if current trends continue, Florida is to have a population of 36 million people. And while that is an issue for the legislature to address, and I have a policy proposal for that, zoning is a function of county government. And it is in the interest of this county commission and this county to defend the historic Tri-County Ag area. What's at stake here? Well, food for millions of people across the United States and elsewhere. Jobs for many, water retention for the Florida aquifer, and flood mitigation for this county and others. I've heard politicians my whole life talk about smart growth and sustainable development, but they never can put a needle on where that line is drawn in the sand. And at some point, it's no longer smart or sustainable. And we're at that point. By 2060, if current trends continue, Florida's to lose another 7 million acres of green space. That includes 3 to 4 million acres of existing ag lands, 2.7 million acres of forest lands, and 1.3 million acres of other existing habitats. And that's on that is on top of what we've already lost. One should not expect to buy land with the idea and the expectation that it'll be rezoned at a future meeting, a county commission meeting or zone board planning meeting. We must have some hard set zoning boundaries, and Putnam County cannot afford to perpetually move the zoning lines. I am encouraging this board to deny the zoning change and to defend Putnam County and the beauty left in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Teresa Drago, reading a letter from Traylon Alford Davidson. Ms. Drago, if you'll state your name and address and county for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Drago. I live at 117 Commercial Avenue, East Palatka. I'm reading a statement from Travelin' Alford Davidson. She had sent the letter to all of y'all, but she wanted to make sure it was read. It says, Putnam County Board of Commissioners, regarding the zoning of the property of Charles Skeet Alford and Kay Clip on State Road 207. Sorry. I've attended both of the meetings regarding the rezoning of the Alford property on State Road 207. At both meetings, very legitimate arguments were made against rezoning this property, yet it appears that the board is determined to rezone anyway. The only board member who seems to truly understand the consequences of such a change is board member Paul Adamczyk, and I apologize if I mispronounced it. I cannot understand why people who are voted into office to represent their community are not doing just that. There are 3 major reasons that make it clear to me and others in the East Palatka community that rezoning this particular property is a huge mistake. My question to you is why? Why is this property and not other property in Putnam County? If the board was truly concerned about the welfare of Putnam residents, they would look elsewhere. This land is black gold. This land is much too valuable to place houses on. There is plenty of other available land in the county that would work great for housing, but can't grow decent crops. The board would be wise to consider a less expensive option for building housing if they truly want to provide resident housing that they can afford. Number 1, the Chamber and others seem to believe that this development will provide affordable housing for Putnam County residents. This is clearly not true. With a mean income of $33,000 per year, D.R. Horton's development with houses having a $350,000 and up price tag will not help the housing issue in the county. Instead, it will bring people from outside the county. How are you helping your constituents by providing housing to people from other places? Number 2, all through your comprehensive plan, it is stated that the county must protect and promote the agricultural nature of the area. A person would have to be blind or very out of touch with reality to not see how this development will lead to the demise of agriculture in Putnam County. With approximately 700 new families living in this area, There is literally no way the farmers can continue to farm productively.
Mr. Ago,
I see, and I'm only halfway through the letter, but y'all have each received this
We
letter,
did.
so hopefully you will take it into consideration.
It's part of the public record. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ago. Mr. Leonard Freeman? Mr. Freeman in the...
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. State your name and address and county for the record, please, sir.
I am Leonard Freeman, and my address is 134 Pierce Street, East Palatka, Florida, 32131. I am a Federal Point farmer. I've had very good telephone conversations with all of you about this project, and I sincerely thank you for listening and for your time. The project, as proposed, will not comply with the future land use and comprehensive plan, as it is not compatible or harmonious with the historic existing agriculture uses of the lands of the immediate neighborhood. You must return the application to the Planning Commission and staff for review, reconsideration, and revision. In addition, an approval of the proposed project would mean that this citizen employee, historically high productive agricultural land, will never grow anything again. Once you dig, it's irreversible. I think that would be an onerous legacy to own. Some of you have stated that you are concerned that there are legal questions regarding future land use aspects of the project that would compel a denial. We share those concerns. And since you nor I are attorneys, it is therefore necessary that the project be referred to the Staff Council for another review. There is ample reason for concern because our very own future land use goals, objectives, and policies that members of the Commission and others that are here, including me, put together some years back clearly states Goal A1, as previously discussed, maintain and manage the county's natural resources and quality of life by establishing a pattern of development that is harmonious with the county's natural environment and supports the rural and agrarian nature of the county while providing a desired lifestyle for county residents. I find it impossible to believe that any of you can truly believe that allowing 580 residents on lots 11/100ths of an acre, nearly surrounded by hundreds of acres of production agricultural land, is by any stretch of the imagination in any way compliant with our simply stated goals and objectives. On the phone, we discussed the wastewater concerns and the stated fact that this project will require all the remaining capacity of the county treatment facilities, the stormwater management requirements that may impact water quality and drainage on nearby properties and demand completely different plans than the application depiction, the groundwater salinity issues that can decrease potato yields according to University of Florida studies by 50%. That two vegetable packing houses are 4/10 of a mile and a mile away, have been there for decades, and have hundreds of semi-trucks and tractor-drawn cars on the roads, along with very large equipment. Add maybe 1,000 more vehicles, and we've got chaos in the making. Local corn production may lead to feeding silage to larger numbers of meat animals relatively close by. They can be quite odoriferous, and so can ground and aerial chemical herbicide and pesticide application. For 3 of you, this is a personal legacy decision, one of your last decisions in this job. Don't make a decision that saddles your successors with a project that was not well thought out, not well researched, and not respectful of the past and the rural nature lifestyles of the people who have supported you. Don't approve or disapprove this project. Send it back to the Planning Commission, the staff, council, and the applicant to develop a plan that will be harmonious and compatible with the current historic use and the desires of the county residents you are sworn to represent.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming today. Mr. Wade, off you come up and give your name and address and county. On your card, you did not leave, so I'll fill that in when you say it, okay?
I'm Wade Offord, 237 Worcester Road, Pomona Park, Putnam County.
So, right off the bat, it's incompatible uses. It's urban sprawl. We know that. I don't know, this Mark Spalding fellow, does he represent Kay and Skeet? Is he their attorney, or is he represent them in some way? He's making promises for offset for property. Is this hearsay? I don't know. Don't take hearsay into consideration because we didn't see it in the deal, did we? There's a lot of gray areas in that deal. My great-grandfather started this particular farm. They started in Stark in Bradford County. Florida has some of the poorest soil on the planet. They went to Grandin. That didn't work either. They found that property, as my sister stated in her letter, that's productive farmland. I don't know where this other potential place is or what the qualities of it are. So let's get to the dollars. The chamber never mentioned that L&M Farms does about $300,000 or $400,000 a week in payroll. There's between 300 and 400 people work out there. So now they're going to have to pull their cabbage carts from Flagler County. That doesn't make much sense. Property taxes may be going away. I don't know if y'all know that. The legislature's talking about it. What's the $3 million going to mean? If it's gone, we're going to get our money from sales tax and other things. Is that relevant? There's never been a 911 call. I went to the sheriff's office and pulled the records from these 4 addresses. There has never been a 911 call. So what's that $1,700 a month going to? It's being used pretty efficiently, right? A fence is not a mitigation for smells, spray drift, dust clouds. Went through that with Southwoods Elementary in St. Johns County with Mr. Fortner. Built an elementary school next to his farm. Oh my gosh, you should have seen the mess that went on over that for years. This legacy y'all want to leave? You guys that are leaving us, you're supposed to represent us, not build places for imports to come and use up our space, take over our cropland, interfere in our neighborhoods and our way of life. I'm also a grower. I've fed 18,000 kids in a week in 3 counties for this farm to school program. I understand what these guys are talking about, and they're right. So you got to pick your legacy. Is this what you want to do? Is this what you want to leave for us? Opening the door to St. Johns County? As I told you before, I used to live in St. Johns County, and I came back here because I didn't like what was happening there. It takes too long to get anywhere. So if this is the legacy y'all want to leave, so be it. I'll have to find me a new home, and I've been here almost all my life. Thanks for your time. I hope you consider it thoroughly.
Thank you, Mr. Alford. Mr. Hafner, Jerry Hafner.
He's going to need a microphone brought to him. He's in a chair.
Zach, would you get him? We're going to bring you a portable microphone. We wouldn't be able to see you, I don't think. So I think, bring him.
Well, thank you all for getting me
Come up a little bit more so Commissioner Pickens can, there you go. Okay.
Thank you all for getting me up here. I'll tell you, Chairman, I'm a little disappointed that almost everything I want has already been said, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of it.
You do have to state your name and address.
I was going to say the one thing that wasn't brought up was my name and address. Jerry Hafner, 122 Hilty Lane. Jerry Hafner, 122 Hilty Lane in East Palatka. By the way, I'm one of those folks that live within a mile of the current water system. I don't have water. I've heard nothing about any sewer. Boy, I'd love to see them come down East River Road at some point. But anyway, I think I'm very pleased to see the discussion here today. I'm a little disappointed that it had to come all the way to a second reading of this commission for some of these items brought up. I don't understand it. I don't know if y'all remember or not. Well, I'm a member of the Planning Commission, by the way, which I think most people know, but maybe not for long. But I voted against sending this to you folks. The Planning Department tells us that these things all meet the comprehensive plan. Well, when I read the comprehensive plan, my belief is it doesn't meet the comprehensive plan. And I think we need to start looking at a lot more of these kind of projects a little more seriously. A lot of folks have brought up the fact that we're now going to be bombarded. If this project goes through, we'll have nothing but homes from there all the way to the county line vegetable stand. It will happen. Mark my words. Go take a look at Passetti Road up in North St. Johns County. all the farmland's disappeared. It's all now schools, houses, et cetera, and traffic. So it's the kind of thing we can't let happen. Putnam County really is a rural area. I'm proud of the rural nature of this county. I think it needs to be continued. My family comes from a long line of farmers, not particularly all in Putnam, but close to Putnam. So I'd kind of like to see it continue the way it's been. Mr. Harvey brought up earlier the issue on the PUDs, and my belief has been for a long time, I like PUDs to an extent, but I feel like they're being, I don't want to say shoved down our throat, but I think they're being used by folks coming into this county now to be able to bypass a lot of our current zoning and regulations. And I think we need to start taking that into more serious consideration. So along with all of those things, I'm going to leave it there. I certainly, I guess you figured out, don't support this project going forward. But I'm proud that we might be reviewing some additional things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hafner. Do they trust you in high gear? I don't know. Caitlin Lee will be our next speaker. And again, if I remind you to state your name, address, and county, please.
Good morning. My name is Caitlin Lee, 1115 Saddleback Trail, Palatka, Florida. I am a fifth-generation Putnam County resident, and I'm raising my two sons, who are the sixth generation of my family to reside in Putnam County, specifically residing in Barden. Today I come to you as a highly concerned, generational Putnam County resident. You may think that I don't have a dog in the fight as to being able to speak on this issue, and I have been told many times, no matter what goes on during these meetings, most of the commissioners have their minds made up before they even get here. If so, then as a citizen of Putnam County, I would ask the county commissioners not only state, but provide the people of our county with their proposed plans to get ahead of these issues I'm about to address before they allow them to take place in our community. You've heard from many people that have come up and very emotionally stated their opinions on the matter. I'm here to make you think about these facts. I've been a lifelong advocate of agriculture, but today we're going to address some other things because everybody else has already addressed those major issues. On March 20, 2021, Florida Power & Light purchased 1,246.56 acres of land in the Barden area. The land was purchased for solar panels. The company or companies that have done the site prep, construction work, and maintain the land have a numerous amount of employees that obviously have to drive up and down Barden Road. From March 2021 to March 2024, there have been 295 traffic stops and 53 accidents on Barden Road alone. Barden, the small community that has a population of around 500 people, had 294 traffic stops in 3 years. Compared to the prior years, March of 2018 to March of 2021, before they purchased the land, the numbers have increased almost 14%. Now I ask each of you to think about this. This is a solar power company that has increased the amount of traffic stops. Imagine a community with an approximate 580 homes. 580 homes equals 580 families. So let's crunch a few numbers. The average family in America is a household of 4 people. Then that would mean we're looking at an approximate increase of 2,320 people. Can you, as the Board of County Commissioners, tell us how you plan to get ahead of the traffic maintenance and patrol of the East Palatka area surrounding this land that has been requested to be rezoned? According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Putnam County is 827 square miles of land and water that is patrolled under the jurisdiction of the Putnam County Sheriff's Office, along with some few smaller agencies. Our Sheriff's Office employs only 137 sworn deputies and 62 corrections officers that are to patrol and help maintain the safety of our county, an agency that is already understaffed, that they constantly, or almost constantly, have vacant spots for road deputies as well as dispatcher positions. Now, before you think you can throw traffic issues to highway patrol, just remember that there's only so many highway patrol officers that are in our county at a time. But it's not even about the officers and deputies we have to worry about. It's also about the predictable amount of 911 Sheriff's Office phone calls that will not maybe increase, but will increase with the rezoning of this land to become a subdivision. How have you prepared to make sure that our Sheriff's Office is capable of upholding this of an increase to our county?
Ms. Lee, if you could wrap it up, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
As well as the Sheriff's Office, deputies and dispatchers, the lack that we have of them, there's also, our jail is almost at max capacity. More people equals more crime. That's how it is. Our jail is a capacity of 450 inmates. We have almost 400 right now.
We need to wrap it, okay?
Yes, sir. The last issue is our schools, which has already been stated, so I won't get there. As our elected officials, the people of Putnam County depend on you to make the decisions that are the best interest of Putnam County, the ones that are already here. Can each and every one of you truly and wholeheartedly that bringing in a drastic amount of homes to one small community will benefit Putnam County?
Okay, Ms. Lee, I really need to come, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Is there anyone else that did not fill out a blue card that would like the opportunity to speak before we shut the public hearing down? Going once, going twice, no one's running to it, so the public hearing is now closed and go into commissioner deliberations. Commissioners? Commissioner Wilkinson.
I would like to discuss with our county attorney the issue that was brought up regarding the suggestion that I recuse myself. I had given a disclosure. I'm obviously an independent agent, only paid by the transactions that I that I buy or sell for a customer. I'm not a party to this transaction at all. So I wanted you to weigh in on your thoughts of whether you thought I should recuse myself.
I don't. I think actually under Florida law, you're required to vote unless there's a conflict. I think in addition to that, you and I have gone through the Florida Sunshine Manual, and not just that you didn't participate in transaction, but you don't or you will not get any sort of financial gain from anything to do with your vote.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. Any other comment? Okay, commissioners, what's your pleasure? Commissioner Amstad? Yeah. Okay. Has there been any ex parte communications, Mr. Adams?
I have had ex parte communications with both sides, and it will not affect my vote.
Mr. Turner?
I've had ex parte communications with one side of the issue since the last meeting and both sides since the beginning, and it will not affect my decision.
Thank you. Mr. Pitts?
I've had ex parte communication with both sides, whether it was in person, phone calls, emails. Also, the applicant last week, and also Mr. Spalding yesterday, I believe it was. So it will not affect my decision.
Ms. Wilkinson?
I've had ex parte communication with both sides, actually through via emails and phone calls, but yes, with both sides, and it will not affect my decision.
And so have I. I've had on both sides, the applicant in the beginning of the conversation, and I'm very glad that we do have a two-meeting system here going on, so a lot of things that were addressed and cleaned up. So that's the end of our ex parte. Commissioners, what's your pleasure on this? Commissioner Amzak, I'm sorry, I didn't see the light.
I make a motion that we deny the rezone PUD 24-000004 rezone from ag to planned unit development.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of second.
This, Mr. Chair,
Mr.
this case is, if it passes today, then it's got to go to Development Review Committee. And then after Development Review, it's going to come back to the Board of County Commissioners in the future for approval of the development order after that gets done. Is that correct?
That is correct. The commission will be tasked with approving or denying a preliminary development order for them to move forward through the plat process.
I understand, but it'll be approved, and then the final development order will also be approved?
That comes back to you guys as well.
You guys, whoever's here.
The commission, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this this PUD. What page is the thing on that I have to read?
The ordinance?
Yeah.
148.
bottom of page 148. Actually, the top of page 148.
Okay. Ordinance number 2024-017, amending ordinance number 24-12. Do I need to read the whole title, Rich, or am I even on the right one?
Because we just did 17.
This is on page 148.
I think it's 18.
We did 16.
We did.
Which one? Are we on the right one?
What's the number?
17, it says,
I thought so too.
17 or 18.
Okay, we're
Okay,
good.
if I don't actually number the ordinance, but read the whole ordinance.
You
in
can just
title.
do by title only.
And that is the correct one on page 148, correct? Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move approval of an ordinance of the Putnam County, of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the official zoning map for Putnam County Incorporated into Article 2 of the Putnam County Land Development Code, Ordinance 2024-12, rezoning 165 acres from agriculture to planned unit development, providing for severability and an effective date. Case number PUD 24-000004, with the changes that were made.
Okay. We have proper motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
For discussion, we have a second. Mr. Adamsack is first light. And I'll come back to you, Mr.
Yeah,
Pickens.
so I'll be voting against this, and I'm going to state the reasons why. I do believe it absolutely is urban sprawl. It will result in the backfill process, which then would be mandated by our land development code. So it actually would be enacting a portion of our land development code, which is A161, which is the county shall encourage infill and higher density and intensity development within the urban service designated area of the county where services and facilities are available to accommodate additional growth. The issue is here, there is no backfill until you put this development in. If you put this development out in the end of the line, which is where it is, then you're basically now anything that happens from here forward is going to be backfill. You're not backfilling from the end in, you're backfilling from where you start out. So we're going against that. We're going against the fact that it doesn't support our comprehensive plan. It is not conducive to agricultural next to it. It's not conducive to the ag and rural nature of our community that it surrounds it. So it's just everything about it doesn't meet what our comprehensive plan or land development code says, in my opinion. So I will be voting no.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
It's probably going to surprise everybody here that I don't agree with Mr. Adamsack, but I think that if we're going to have development in this county, it's going to have to be in a good place. And I know that some people may or may not agree with this, but I happen to believe that if you're going to have land use of urban reserve in that area, you're going to have a 4-lane highway for access. It's going to be right next to water and sewer system. If you're not going to put it there, where are you going to put it? That's my problem with the thing. Putnam County does need some. My granddaughter has got to live in another county because there's no affordable housing. And yes, she could afford a $300,000 house. She has a good job, but she can't find one around here. So I'm telling you, there are some housing that needs to be put in Putnam County. It's easy for us that live here already to say, hey, we don't want any more houses. We're here already. We don't want any more houses. But we do need some housing in Putnam County. We need some. So I am going to vote for this, and I did make the motion, and that's it. And it's real easy for us all to say that we don't want anything to change or not in our backyard or whatever. I just don't know of a better place to put a subdivision other than in this area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Pickens, did you have a comment?
Yeah, with the particular future land use, that's what I've been struggling with. If you're going to put a subdivision like this, where are you going to put it? It is off the 4-lane road. I understand it's agricultural properties, but if the owner of this property wasn't willing to sell, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Would we? No, we wouldn't. But we're having this conversation, and we have land development codes and comprehensive plans to try to do the best job to manage the growth. And the growth is coming, there's no question. I live in the south end, and we're seeing lots just that haven't sold for years and years are being bought. A major development? No, not yet. I'm not sure what Mr. Johnny Morris of Bass Pro Shops is going to do with the 4,500 plus acres that he's planning on developing, but he's probably going to do something. So with this particular one, I've probably struggled as much with this one as any decision that I've made. And you talk about a legacy. If you want to pin a legacy on me, then maybe you have to do that. When I was elected, all I wanted to do to try to do the best job for the citizens of Putnam County. And yes, I chose not to run. There's a number of reasons why. But making tough decisions is not one of them, and this is a tough decision. So I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Pickens. Mr. Adamsat?
Yeah, so Mr. McKinnon, I think his name was, made a good point about natural growth or natural growth of the community, right? And what that is exactly what Mr. Commissioner Pickens described. There's lots that are available. There's thousands of lots that are available in Putnam County to be built on today. And those lots are available, and people are starting to purchase them and build the home that they want on a lot that's a reasonable size. They're not looking to change the look and the feel of the entire community, change the look and feel of an entire agricultural area. The Land Development Code allows for PUDs. It doesn't mandate that we approve PUDs. So the Land Development Code has, for that land that's out there, even under urban service, has rules and requirements for that land. That could be followed, and then they could do, I think it's 70 or some homes. And that could be done today. The only reason they need a PUD is because they want to increase the density beyond what the Land Development Code calls for. I'm against that, and that's where I stand. And I just think we're making a huge mistake here, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Adamsat. Ms. Wilkinson, you have the floor.
For me, this comes down to property rights. I think our American founders understood clearly that private property rights is the foundation not only of prosperity, but of freedom itself. And through the common law, state law, and the U.S. Constitution, they protected property rights. The rights of people to freely acquire, use, and dispose of property. And the seller of this property has the right to sell to whoever they choose to do so. Then it comes to us to look at our policies and to see what we have in policy to in our comprehensive plan. And there's not any proposal that's ever going to adhere to every component of our plan. I think it is consistent with our plan and our policies. As stated on page 93 of our packet, there's several policies mentioned. One of them obviously talks about the fact that there's already water and sewer available, and that it's located in an urban service area, and that infrastructure is there. And so I'm more on the property rights side of it. I don't know how we can sit here and say that we're a Republican or a constitutionalist or a conservative and not be willing to uphold the freedoms that were given to us in the U.S. Constitution. Further, we do need houses in Putnam County. I pulled the stats on houses that were built in 2023, and we had 211 homes that received permits in Putnam County in 2023. I can assure you that many counties around us and across the state of Florida are building a lot more homes than 211 in a year, and that includes modular and mobile homes as well. So it's hard for us. This is something that I did not take lightly. I have really thought about it and really done a lot of work, and I've spoke to a lot of people about this who have called, including many people in the audience who had some very valid points. But at the end of the day, when we want, people always say, well, how come we don't have this in Putnam County, or how come we don't have that? We can't grow our county if we continue to do the same thing that we're doing. And so that's where I'm at. I think that this capitalizes on bringing new families and boosting our economy and keeping the families here, that, to Commissioner Turner's point, affordability is based on the person who, whether they can afford it or not. The market sets that. So people who can't afford it aren't going to buy them, and people that can afford them will. And that's on the developer. He's taking that risk, or they're taking that risk. So I'm going to be voting up on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams?
Yeah, unfortunately, not being a libertarian, being a Republican conservative, property rights end where the rules and laws of the land to protect the other neighboring properties begin. So that's how this works. So it has nothing to do with political affiliation, unless we're in a pure libertarianism, chaotic society where we can all do whatever the hell we want, which we can't. That would apply. So your statement is offensive and doesn't apply at all to the situation. It is absurd to think that this is a good use for this land. I don't care who you are, it's an absurdity. All it is it's a land play, it's a land grab to enable developers to further grab more land between the end of East Palatka and where this property, the edge of this property on the south side is. That is what will happen over time. There's no way to avoid it, because once you allow that one to be out at the end, we're instructed through our land development code to allow infill from between the two. So that's what's going to happen, and we're setting up the future commissions, we're setting up this community for failure. Growth, define growth. We've grown since I've been in the seat in 3 years, $2-point-something billion, almost 50% of property value in the county. How much more growth do we need at 50% at a time in 3 years? That's a huge click of growth. We're at a sustainable level. We're not building big subdivisions, and we're growing at 50%. So it doesn't add up. So we want to grow that growth at 300, 500%. That's not what our community is asking us to do, at least not anyone that I speak to in the community, and that's both business people and private citizens. So thank you.
All right, we have a proper motion, we have a proper second. Ms. Ashley, if you'll do a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Absolutely not.
Yes. Okay, passes 4-1. Thank you very much for attending today. Next item of business is our ordinance amending section 3026 of the Putnam Code, library system. Who's got, Ms. Julianne?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Could you take a 2-minute?
Yeah, take a break.
Wait, I want to wait just a minute.
Huh?
Wait just a minute.
Why?
Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break.
Thank you.
On our ordinance amending section 30-26 of the Putnam County Code, library system. Ms.
Yes, sir.
Julianne?
Chairman,
Okay, I will. Yes,
yes, sir. At the July 9th board meeting, the board requested staff to bring back an amendment to this ordinance to remove term limits. The current ordinance prevents a member from serving more than 2 consecutive terms. And so the red line version before you just simply strikes the sentence, members may not serve consecutively more than 2 terms, to allow them to serve as appointed by their commissioners.
hey, Commissioner Pickens, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, thank you, Julianne. This was brought to my attention actually when a member of the library board representing District 1, Nancy Taylor, she was up for reappointment. So I called her, and she actually told me, she said in the ordinance or bylaws that you can only serve 2 consecutive terms. She was ready to step down, so it really didn't affect her. But if she had wanted to, that would have. Now, Yvette Jones, who's actually the chairman of the library board, she reached out to me and asked us to see if we could take a look at it, because she had a couple of strong board members that were willing to continue, but they were also going to be term limited out. So I would hope that we would move this thing forward to strike that.
Thank you, Mr. Pickens. Is anybody here from the library system or our library boards? All right, so ending that, is there any public comment based on the ordinance amended section 3026 concerning library system board of directors? And hearing no one coming up here for that, we have a proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Adamczak. Commissioner Wilkinson, you have a comment? Nope. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Next is our public comment on agenda items. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda items that are listed from item A through W? Any public comments? And seeing no one rushing to the microphone, we're going to close the public comment portion and now go to the consent agenda. Commissioner Adamczak, items you want to pull?
I have none.
Commissioner Turner.
I have none.
Commissioner Pickens.
Yeah, I'd like to pull E through O.
E and O?
E through O.
E through O. Okay, and Commissioner Wilkinson.
I have none.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion on the items that weren't pulled.
Mr. Chair, I move consent agenda item A, B, C, D, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, and W.
Proper motion, we have a second. Proper second. Hearing any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Mr. Pickens, items E through O.
Yes, as being chair of the Affordable Housing Committee, it was brought to my attention after I read the packet that there were some Scribner errors, which I believe that Laura Berardi has taken care of and corrected. And I spoke with Ms. Dawn Cobb from Guardian, and she agreed that she just made a couple of mistakes. But also on your information that you have, or your cover sheet for the agenda, it says that all of these are rehabilitation grants, and that's not true. 2 of them are down payment assistance. One of them was down payment assistance with some renovation in it, rehabilitation, which is what the board has been working for, is to try to spread these monies out where they're available to different people to get in their first home, whether it's new construction or their first home or in a home with rehabilitation. So I wanted to clarify that, and it is correct in your cover sheets or your letters in there. It does state whether it's rehabilitation or if it is down payment. Then also Ms. Lindsay Lambert, who comes to some meetings, she brought it to our attention that it looks like there was a misunderstanding with the amount of time that you have. And down says award letter is valid for 120 days. That is actually, and Julianne, correct me, and I want you to add to this, it's 20 days to get the project started, and then you have a full year of eligibility. Is that correct, Julianne?
Yes, sir. And you'll notice in the letters prepared, the memorandums prepared by Guardian, in the very top title, the regarding section, it states that you have 1 year certification, or certificate of eligibility. The award letter stipulates 120 days, because as we all know, SHIP funding is time sensitive, and so we want to employ into that awardee that time is of the essence, and they need to get everything rolling within 120 days. We have the full year for anybody who may, let's say we started at day 121. We absolutely still have the full year to get them all the way through the process. But the letter, the timeline in the letter written to those applicants is intended to stimulate action quickly.
Okay. And just a couple more things. One of the neat things about this is one of the applicants for down payment would not be able to get into a home without this assistance. Now, there is a requirement. They have to stay in the home for 20 years, but that is agreed on. So, but I also want to just say I want to thank the Guardian Corporation for being the third-party administrator, Julianne, Administrator Suggs, our staff, Miss Cindy Trent from the clerk side. She does the financial parts of this. And the county commission, the previous board, this board, for the nominations of our board. I've been on this chair for about 3 years, and we have had a hard time getting quorums. We have not had that problem in the last year and a half. And it's a lot of discussion. They're interested in it. And what we have done in the last 3 years, and I give this all credit to the board, our staff, Guardian, and Miss Cindy Trent, especially Antonio Jenkins with Guardian, that we have come out of the situation that we're in, where we were behind and not staying in compliance. We are now in compliance. We have received 3 different years of money. This is the first years that we're using is 21, 22. So we're in a place as far as the AHAC committee and administrating this SHIP money that we've not been in a while. So we're giving out new monies, and hopefully we will be able to have 5 or 6 more come in the next couple of meetings, and then continue as we distribute these monies. So I just want to thank everybody for that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we accept consent agenda item E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O.
Second.
You can tell by the popularity of Mr. Pickens, who is a very humble man, about all the seconds that he just got. So, Mr. Pickens, a lot of that was your leadership, and we realize that. And thank you very much for continuing to that group together. We have a proper motion. We have numerous seconds. Any further discussion on the item? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Mr. Moore, if you'll come up. Do we have anybody in the audience for any of these fine request cases? Any fine request codes case? Please come up. What codes case are you here for? We're going to try to move this along pretty quick. I'm sorry? 05. Okay.
Brianna Johnson.
D.
Okay, Mr. Moore, if you'll start with item B.
D. D as in dog.
D as in dog. Okay. Page
Okay.
2. Okay. Hang on just a minute. He's going to give it to us, and then we'll give you a chance to speak. Okay? Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
Code case 22-005014. Address is 205 North Palmetto Avenue. Property owner's name is Brianna Johnson. Violation was unsafe structure. Original fine amount was $15,487. Total cost of enforcement action was $1,840. The property owners recently purchased the property. It's now compliant and requesting the fine reduction. If the board approves, we recommend the reduced fine to be paid within 90 days.
Thank you. The applicant's here. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
It's Brianna Johnson. Address is 22204 U.S. Highway 301 in Hawthorne. I was assisted with purchasing this property, and we are just looking to get a fine reduction since we've completed the demo to remove the unsafe structure. And currently, we're just seeking for approval on that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to speak in favor or against this? Okay. We'll close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Before I make a motion on this, I want to have a discussion. I noticed that this month on our codes list that there's supposed to be the cost of code of what we have in these cases, that we've added a line item since last time that says legal cost, just a blanket legal cost line item. I'm totally opposed to this, and the reason being is twofold. Number one, this is supposed to be a report of what it's costing us, not what we're just projecting it could cost. And we're not paying that $250 to anybody. So I don't believe that we should just arbitrarily add $250 and say, well, it's costing that at least that much to us in legal fees. I think that's just a wrong attitude to have here. We're already pushing this. It's not paying for the magistrate because the line above it is the magistrate. Mm-hmm. We're already saying that inspections and postings are $50 every month. I don't know that they did 15 different postings and inspections, but they may have. But all those are essentially
Hard cost.
Yeah, hard cost. Having a $250 legal cost just in case we might incur some legal expense. Number one, I was told that this would be akin to a car dealer putting it on their sales contract, $250 legal expense, just in case we ever need to hire a lawyer. And I'm told that it ain't legal. It might be against bar rules, I think is what I was actually told. Whether that's true or not, I'm a roofer from San Mateo, don't know. But one thing I do know is for us just throwing $250 at a case and saying this has got to be cost, that just ain't right. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion on this case.
Go right ahead, sir.
I move that we reduce this fine to $1,590 if paid within 90 days. That's the staff recommendation minus the $250 and fictitious legal costs.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have proper
Mr.
motion,
Chair,
proper
can I
second.
respond to some of that? being that
That's why I pushed my button,
it's
because I
been
would
called
like.
fictitious, illegal,
Who do
and
you pay it
violating
to,
law.
Rick?
Okay.
No, really, I'm serious. Who do you pay the $250 to?
Okay, hang on. I called Ms. Wilkinson. She's got the floor.
Thank you. That was what my question was going to be, if you could respond to those discussion and let us know what your thoughts are about the $250.
So the legal
You
contract
can have a seat.
that I have with the county is anything that's outside of what is routine as part of my work with the commission is billed at $250 an hour. So when you look at these cases, from the review of the code enforcement fine, from the actual times where we have the abatements, one came through today, review of the claim, satisfaction, reductions, all of those things are legal costs that are incurred by the county. This is an actual cost that's already occurred. It's not something that might happen in the future. So you have an entitlement as a county commission to recover your actual cost, and you do pay me. And as you pay me, that is to recover those costs, not for something that might happen in the future.
So what you're telling me is we write you a check for $250 for every one of these code cases?
No, you write a check for a lot more than that for what you pay me every month.
I understand that, but that's for your overall legal services, not for your code, not for your services on this code case. This is supposed to be costs of our code case, not what we're paying you overall.
So I guess I could send you a separate bill if that's what the commission would like me to do.
Do we owe you $250 for every code case? Did you look at this code case and charge us $250?
I looked at the code case, and there's not one of these that between your paralegal and I that is ever less than 1 hour. Not one. So if you don't want to recover that cost and you want to take that money out of your general revenue,
Well, for
that's a
several
commission
years, we
decision.
didn't even charge for administrative monthly, and we started doing that to try to recover more costs, and now we're adding a legal fee on top of that. I'm not going to support it, but the
That's the
commission may
commission's
decide
decision. But it's not that it's inappropriate or illegal or something in the future. These are costs that are actually incurred by the county.
Ms. Wilkinson, you still have the floor. I'm sorry.
And now he answered my question. I mean, it seems reasonable what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. If these are hard costs, I understand that the cost from the $300 up to the 100 goes back to planning and zoning, but the 250 goes back to legal. So do we have a fund, a
Does it-
revenue source for that?
Does it offset it that's a good question.
Do we have a revenue for legal now?
I don't think you have a separate fund that pays for
Probably
our
needs to.
services anyway. Again, that's a Julianne question. Last I checked, I'm paid out of the GR money.
As is the codes department funded out of GR, as is their abatement function or activity funded out of the GR. So essentially, none of it is itemized in the way you're thinking in split funded, but all of it is generating revenue into the general fund and is expenses in the general fund, both codes, abatement, and legal.
All right, so we could create a legal fund where we collect monies back.
I don't think she's saying it's necessary.
I don't believe that's necessary.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second on the
My
floor.
lights lit up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Turner, I didn't see your line.
When we try to calculate how much that we owe for each one of these items, we do it by saying that an inspection costs about, or a posting costs about X amount of dollars, and that's 15 of them. They track them on how many we use. Not on any one of the other line items that we have do we have one that says we're going to just put money in there to pay for our overall bill, to help pay for legal counsel on an overall bill. It's not the same thing to me. Like I said earlier, for years around here, we took the administrative monthly off of every single one of these because we didn't feel that should be being paid. And the board changed their mind and started adding that in there over a period of years. So, Mr. Chairman, my motion stands at $1,590.
And you have a second. So we'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. $1,590 would then pay within 90 days. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to item A, under 9A. There's no one else here for codes reduction of any sort? Okay, Thomas, let's move through those pretty quick if we don't mind.
I can move through them, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I've just got to do the math. Mr. Chairman, on case number 2012-00023, I move that we reduce that fine to $1,492 if paid within 90 days.
We have a proper motion. Do we have a second?
What was the reduction? I apologize.
$1,492.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by... Sorry, Mr. Adams.
I guess because otherwise we're going to have a 3-2 vote, I think, forever now. And I'm going to have to speak for every one of these cases. I think from hearing the attorney, he said they work at least an hour. So they are doing that due diligence of saying, and I know there's been some that I've been involved in where we got called where we had to refer to them, where I'm sure it took multiple hours in time, just because of the chaos that the citizen possibly was creating and neighbors were. I know that he gets involved as well as Ms. Lassiter on several things with regards to these cases, and I don't think 1 hour at a time is absurd. I don't know what else to say, but I'm going to have to vote no on all of these going forward if we subtract the $250.
You didn't vote?
Yeah, I
You didn't
voted
vote no on the ones when we used to take the administrative fee out of it?
Yeah, because I didn't get what we were doing, and then we agreed to add it back in
Get it
because it
now.
was a cost.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor of $1,492. There's a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign.
Aye.
And I did that because the first one I'm good for, but after that I'm not. So let's
If
move
there's
on.
no motion on the floor, nothing's been done.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of $2,058 for code case 2021-00051.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it.
Excuse me, Commissioners, did you say 2,058?
Yes,
She
sir.
did.
Yes.
To be paid within 90 days.
You're not remain consistent with the 250?
That was
That's
her
what
motion.
they
Changed
just
it.
did. They just overrode the 250, no more, the no more 250.
As posted in the
Are we
book.
going to go back and redo the other
No,
ones?
over with. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Wilkerson.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of code case fine reduction 2021-00066, $2,089 to be paid within 90 days.
Second.
A proper motion, proper second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We've already done D, so now all we got left is E.
Oh, lost my place.
Yes, ma'am? Yes, sir.
I think what Thomas's confusion was is on B, because there's a denial, that means the full fine amount goes back into effect.
You have to remain consistent on every,
The first one.
No, we're able to change those fees. The board, those are
We
board
didn't deny.
fees. So we fixed it.
We approved it at a different
We
level.
approved it, the cost,
Okay.
what it was.
Perfect.
So, yeah. I know there's some, okay.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of codes case fine reduction 22-006574, $2,026 to be paid within 180 days.
yes, ma'am.
Second.
Okay, we have proper motion, proper second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay. Appointments, Mr. Adams, do you have any?
I have none.
Mr. Turner?
Yes. The thing that I want to say something before we move into the next phase, if that's all right
That'd
with
be
you.
fine.
I think it's wrong, and I just want to say that. I think it's wrong that we sit up here and require fees to be paid to people that are trying to do their best to get by. I think that it's wrong on the fee schedule we're going to talk about this afternoon. I think it's wrong on a lot of issues, but this is the one that we just went through is one I think is wrong again. I think that we're charging people because we can, not because we have to. And I think it's wrong. So, Mr. Chairman, please move on. What was your question?
Do you have any appointments?
No,
Mr.
sir, I don't.
Mr. Pickens?
I have none.
Ms. Wilkinson?
I have none.
And I have one, Ms. Carolyn Bennett, for the library board, now that she can serve. And that's the end of our appointments. So we're probably at a good spot right now to go ahead and, you know what? There is somebody in the audience, though. Item C, under new business, Meridian Behavior Healthcare. You've been sitting here very patiently, and before we break for lunch, why don't we go ahead and hear that case? So, page 349 in your packet, and we'll hear that, then we'll break for lunch. Who's got that? Julianne, do you have that?
Yeah, aren't they asking for the same amount we gave them last year?
That's
Yes,
exactly
sir,
what
but they're required to give you this real brief report. It's very, very short, so if you have questions, she can answer, but
Make it very
otherwise.
brief, okay? And
Yeah,
state your
I
name and
can.
address.
I mean, I'm sure you all have already seen it. It basically just a little background on Meridian as an agency. We've been around for 50 years. We're newer to the Putnam County area. I think we opened in 23. We have our clinic down Curl Avenue back that way. It'll talk, you I'm sure have seen all of this, our mission, vision, and so on. In the last year, we have served 350 people via telehealth, and it goes on to show more specifically what we've done for individuals who have gone to our crisis stabilization unit, which is acute care, outpatient counseling, psychiatric care, medication-assisted treatment, and then our residential programs. So basically, we are required to ask for county match funds to match those funds that we get through state and federal funds. And so in total, we have to go to all of the counties and try to round up nearly $2 million. But this year for Putnam County, we are staying the same and requesting $55,000. And this is to fund those individuals who do not have insurance, to provide them the care that they need through any of these services that we talked about previously.
Any questions from commissioners? Anything from staff on this?
Move approval.
A
Second.
proper motion, we got a second. Any further discussion on the motion at hand? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you,
are
and
going to
thank
break
you
for
for
lunch,
doing it before.
and we'll reconvene at 2 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman, what about public comment? I mean, they're going to have to come back in 2 hours.
On miscellaneous items?
Yeah. I'm just asking. I don't know if,
I'm sorry?
You can do whatever you want.
All right, so we'll spend 12 minutes on public comments or less. So do we, Ms. Ashley, thank you, Mr. Pickens, let me assure you that you have, this portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect the board will engage or debate in deliberations on which this matter has first been approached. So you will have 3 minutes to make your speech. The first one, Marlene Legacy, are you here? No? Let's see, Lawrence Perkins, please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Lawrence Perkins. I have property at 153 Powerline Road. I live in Mandarin at 1753 Red Cypress Drive.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to you about the constitutional ballot measure coming up. At the Florida Sheriff's Association in July, Governor DeSantis decried the deception of the campaign promoting ballot measure 3, proposing constitutional amendment to legalize the recreational use of marijuana. The governor pointed out the damage to local jurisdictions as cartel and black market growers invaded the states that have approved similar measures. There's an extensive amount of information out there. There's a site that I would recommend, keepfloridafresh.com, that has quite a bit of information. In February of this year, the CDC site published this statistic. In 2022, 30.7% of 12th graders reported using cannabis in this year, and 6.3% reported using cannabis daily in the past 30 days. Again, that's the CDC.gov site, February of this year. Also, cannabis use can have permanent effects on the developing brain when use begins in adolescence, especially when regular or heavy use occurs. Again, February of this year, CDC site, cdc.gov. Keep Florida Fresh outlines some of the critical threats, especially to adolescent young adults. The critical development of mental capability during the critical teen years through age 25 can be dramatically impacted by the consumption of the psychoactive component of cannabis, THC. In the July Florida Trend issue, Trulieve, the $1.1 billion Canadian company, boasts of its THC potency increase of 15% in 2019 to over 28% now in its 380,000 square foot facility in Quincy, just on the other side of Tallahassee. They currently have 138 stores in Florida. They have stated that Florida, they believe, will rival the size. If this passes, it will rival the size of California, because it's not just the population of Florida, it is the 160 million visitors to Florida, and it will change the culture, change much about what we do. There's even one of there are multiple facilities here to buy medical marijuana here in Palatka and across the state. Dr. Daniel Amen of Atlanta's Amen Clinic has published a study of over 66,000 individuals that show a definite accelerated mental aging of cannabis users. This study shows the early onset of dementia and other mental aging maladies. Here's one I'd like you to really think about.
Mr. Perkins, thank you very much.
I like one last sentence. From 2018 to 2022, Florida saw 5,017 alcohol-related vehicle crashes compared with 2,411 marijuana intoxication-related. The fatality associated
Mr.
with
Perkins?
each category, last sentence, were 1,954 for alcohol versus 1,892 fatalities for marijuana intoxicated
Thank you, Mr.
related.
Perkins. Thank you. Mr. Adams-Ake, you have the floor.
Yeah, so, I mean, just because you brought it up, I'll be actively lobbying against it as a constitutional amendment. I think that it's the place of the legislator to make these type of decisions so that we can either vote them in or out based on their decisions. Not because I have any particular stance on number 3. I have a stance that it shouldn't be done codified in the Constitution where it's not easily changed, it's not easily updated, it's not easily applied a text to it. There's a lot that goes on once it becomes part of the Constitution. So I'll be lobbying against it. I'll just share that with you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Thank you, Mr. Johnny Counts. Again, state your name and address, county for the record, please.
Johnny Counts, 9470 Barrel Factory Road, Cracker Swamp, Florida. I'm here to introduce a resolution, or what we would call a constitutional county. I've sent some of y'all, most of y'all, the information on this, spoke to y'all about it and others, but there's a growing movement which towards the establishment is called a constitutional county. This presents itself as a resolution passed legislative body within the county. The concept of the constitutional county implies nullification. The adopting body simply states it will not use any assets to support state or federal interventions that are contrary to the United States Constitution. While this may mean non-enforcement, ultimately, constitutional county will rely on the court process as it does similar processes, whenever the government law, regulations, and other actions are challenged. Almost a daily basis, we see federal, state branches of government enact unconstitutional acts as administrative orders, executive orders, judiciary rulings, legislative actions, mandates, proclamations, regulations, rules, and treaties. These acts violate or at least unreasonably restrict, impede, or impinge on our individual constitutional rights and violate the fundamental American doctrine of separation of powers. During the 2020 COVID crisis, this was especially true. These acts were used to usurp our God-given constitutional rights that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. What we can do, people, is to have good constitutional officers that will support our constitutional rights. And the last hope we have for that is with the constitutional sheriff and a constitutional legislative body, all of our constitutional officers that will support. I gave most of you one of these, the law of the land. And that Bill of Rights, County, constitutional county, is just like we did in January 2020 when we did the Second Amendment sanctuary. Only this takes it further, and I spoke on that at that time. I said we need to do all of them. We don't need to do just the Second Amendment. We need to make sure that we assert our sovereignty as a county, just as we have a sovereignty as a state and a federal government, and that we are going to protect the citizens of this county. We're going to, sign the proclamation that we will support them and not allow federal or state overrule to come in and force to use our own assets against us to take away any of our rights. So I am with the CSPOA, which is the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers of America. They have a website, cspoa.org, and also the Foundation for Freedom.us. And our Constitutional Convention will be September 7th in Orlando. And we hope to have every county in Florida as a constitutional county and make Florida one of the first states to be a constitutional sanctuary state. So please consider that.
Thank you, Mr. Count. Mr. Adams?
Yeah. And I don't know if he supplied all of us different versions that pass in different counties. I in particular like the one Manatee, and I'd like to have it put on our agenda as a proposition for the next commission meeting if possible. And I'll supply it to the attorney and the rest
I was going to ask that the attorney look over that.
Yeah, and make it worded for Putnam County. And the one that I liked when I read it was the Manatee County one, but any of them is suitable. So do you want me to supply you all of them or just one, or? I prefer the Manatee County one.
We do have several different counties and a model that we can send.
Yeah.
Sarasota and Collier and others that are coming on board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to recess till 2 o'clock. Thank you.